Well, good morning, everybody. Baradar. Welcome to today's Make It Happen session on networking. I am joined today by some lovely guest speakers who are going to do an amazing session for you. You're going to get lots of information, lots of top tips, and I'm really looking forward to the session today. So just a quick bit of housekeeping for you. So whilst we are live, your microphones will be muted, but you can send us questions throughout using the chat function, which is just in your docking station, which you can see on your right-hand side. We will be having a 10-minute Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so feel free to post any questions that you might have throughout the webinar itself. We'll collate those questions and we'll be asking the panel at the end. We do have a couple of polls for you today as well, so please join in the polls because we really appreciate your feedback. And also, if we ask you any questions as well, please feel free to pop any notes into the question panel. So after the session today, please make sure that you leave yourself some time to reflect and also to make a list of the things that you're going to do that are of value to you going forward after the session. So please make a bit of time to reflect. So you were not going to be listening to me for the next hour. I am joined today by a lovely panel of speakers. We have got Eleanor Lation, Ellie from Housekeeping, who is one of our engagement partners, and she's going to chat to you through what to do after a networking event. We've got Sarah Louise from the Enterprise Hub and in North Wales, and she is going to be talking to you about your networking experiences, so on the day. And then firstly, I'm going to be joined by the lovely Rodri Packham, and Rodri is going to be talking to you about what you need to do prior to networking. So those are the three speakers that we've got for you today. I'm going to be in the background answering any questions along with my colleague Alexia. So if you do have any, please feel free to post them into the panel on the side. So the Make It Happen project is being run by Housekeeping, and it has been supported by Simply Do Ideas. So thank you to NatWest for sponsoring this project. And we're also, our guest speaker today is from the Enterprise Hub in North Wales as well, who's supporting us. So bear with me a second. So remember that you've got access to the Simply Do Female Founders platform, and you'll see on your screen there's a quick start guide to the platform. The platform is available from www.sdi.click/make-it-happen, and that's how you go onto the platform. Okay, click on New Idea. Then you need to register with your email, or you can also use LinkedIn or Facebook, and then you just click to get started. So this is the Simply Do platform where you can start generating your business idea and putting an idea portfolio together. So that's www.sdi.click/make-it-happen. Bear with me, the slides are moving slowly in the background. Okay, so we appreciate that people have come on to this webinar today, different stages of their business idea, and also for different reasons in terms of networking. So for example, when I'm networking, I did a networking evening last week, and I was there for personal development. So I was there to find out information to progress in terms of my knowledge. But different people network for different reasons. And when you're starting up in business, I think it's really important to network for a number of different reasons. So some people will network because it is really important to combat isolation, because you might be working on your own, and it is really pertinent at the moment, especially if you're working from home every day, which most people are at the moment, to get out and about when lockdown has been eased, or also to network online. For example, my colleague that's joining us today from the Enterprise Hub, you were saying you've got a networking event later on this evening online. Other people will want to network because they want to access support. So that will be supported in terms of either business advice, it could be support in terms of motivation, or it could be support in terms of taking a business idea forward. Other people will network to gain resources, to get information. Some people will network to meet inspirational role models and speakers. For other people, it is a cost-effective marketing tool. It is a way of marketing your business, to all different people from all different backgrounds when you go to a networking event. So choose which networking event you're going to go to, and pick out certain people that you might want to speak to. It's also a way of keeping up to date with changes in the sector, so you can get some sort of recent information on changes to laws, to legislation, all different aspects like that. It's also a way that you can seek out like-minded people. So if you focus on a networking event that is solely to do with your sector, then you can find people that are in a similar situation to you, and you can get advice and support from them. It's also a way to get your name known, to get your brand out there. And we're going to be talking a bit more about that later on. One of the main reasons people network is to achieve goals in terms of sales. That's one of the main reasons. It's to get your name known, so that when somebody wants to purchase something, a product or service, they think automatically of you. And also, networking is really useful in terms of being in the right place at the right time. Because if somebody is looking for something, suddenly you appear, you're right there for them. So without further ado, I am going to pass you on to Rodri. So Rodri is going to chat to you today about what you need to do prior to a networking event. So bear with me, I'm just going to switch off my camera, and then I'll...
Hello.
Okay, Rodri.
Excellent, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My cam isn't working, which is either fortunate or unfortunate. But I guess I wanted to say that I'm no suited and booted, slick professional networker. I've been doing it for probably about 25 years in a variety of different guises, and I still find it uncomfortable. I sometimes still find it hard and something I don't like doing. But hopefully what I will share with you this afternoon are some tips and some interesting ways that we can overcome some of those issues that we face. I think first of all, what we're going to do is run a poll and find out how you all feel about networking. So here it is. How do you feel about networking? You have a number of different options. Some of you are really confident. Some of you embrace it. Some of you will find it all a little bit uncomfortable. Some of you will absolutely detest it and would rather be fed to the sharks. And some of you often avoid it, but know deep down that you do need to be networking a bit more. So we'll just see what responses you come back with. Click on it and give us your answers.
96% have voted so far, so we'll just give it another few seconds.
Excellent, thank you very much. Excellent, looks like the results are coming in. Yeah, there we go. Oh, so nobody is really confident. Some people just get on with it and embrace it. A lot of us feel a bit uncomfortable, and I have to say that's where I sit. Some of you would like to be fish food, and some of you do avoid it, but know that we need to do a little bit more. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so networking, it kind of sounds like a bit of a scary business concept. On the one hand, we've got this cold, hard sell. We've got everybody suited, everybody booted. We can turn up, we can feel really alone. Nobody's talking to us. We've got this great business idea, but where do we turn? Who's going to support us with it? Or even worse, we're surrounded by extroverts. Everybody's selling to us, trying to push on us stuff that we really don't think that we need. It doesn't have to be that way. And when we break it down, networking isn't really about some of that cold sell, some of the suits. It's not really about that. Networking is really about connecting, and connecting with people to make meaningful and reciprocal relationships. Okay, now if you think about it, we do that all of the time. All of us do it. Whether we're talking with friends, whether we're talking with family, colleagues, neighbors, any social situation, we're building relationships. We're giving support to somebody. They're giving us support. And all we need to think about in terms of networking is taking that scenario into something a little bit more formal. We're using the same skills that we use every day to talk to people, to listen to people, to understand people. And we're just going to use those skills that we have to branch out. So we're already using personal networks. And what we need to be thinking about is, how do we access wider networks? How do we move that into a wider situation where we're picking up information from lots of different people? First of all, we have to choose our network, think about what's comfortable for us. Where do we need to be at the specific time? Second thing I want to say is that there's no single method is going to work. We don't always have to be suited and booted. We don't always have to be there with our business card. We don't always have to be doing the impersonal sell. But what we do need to do at a networking event is we need to find the people who can support us and find people that we can support. And that's not necessarily asking for help. It's just identifying the people who are able to help us take our business ideas further. We're looking to build relationships. Why do we need to meet more people? Why do we need to contact people? Why do we need to speak to somebody and hopefully find someone else through them that we can talk to? Because if we think about the stage that we are with our new businesses, it's really exciting. But there are going to be lots of things that we need. And we mentioned customers earlier. That's the obvious thing. We need to sell our services and sell our products. But what we're also looking to do is pick up information about competitors. We're looking to pick up information about community groups, services and products that we're going to need in terms of starting our business. And it's about trust and making those connections, many times emotional, with the people that we're meeting at networking events. That's one of the reasons why we network. Now, there's something called 6 degrees of separation. Many of you will have come across it before. And what that basically means is that we're unlikely to come across the person that we need to speak to, whether that's our ideal customer, whether that's someone who can support us with product development, whether that's someone who can help with printing or branding, just by attending the networking event and speaking to one person. But the 6 degrees of separation suggests that each person in the world knows 100 people. And if each of those 100 people knows another 100 people, that's 10,000 connections we can make just from that one link. And that's a really interesting thing to think about. So when we go to a networking event and we speak to one person, we're not just selling to that one person, we're trying to find out their contacts as well, trying to show an interest in them and their business and find out who else they will know that can really help us and support us. And we can use that then to find relationships with all sorts of different people. But that's built on developing trust, friendliness, mutual support. And whether we're doing that online, whether we're doing that in a formal situation or informal, people buy from people, and it's about building those relationships. Now, even as somebody who is introverted, we need to be making more use of networking. So if you have a look at the next slide, we will see that there is a difference between people who are introverted and extroverted in the way our brains work. For some people, it can seem a really easy thing to do. Those people are bubbly, they're bouncy, they've got endless streams of anecdotes. It's all about the talk, chatter, chatter. And it seems sometimes more natural for the extroverts. But even introverts can network. Yes, it takes longer to process information. Yes, as you can see from the slide there, that information travels differently in our brains. We have to contend with more of the emotional, more of the external stimuli that's going on, and we do struggle with it. But as introverts, there are definitely things that we can do to improve how we network and to get over that feeling that this is a really scary, horrible thing that we don't want to be doing. So what we need to do is plan. And on the right-hand side there, you will see a really interesting fact that introverts make the best networkers because they are good listeners. I'm sorry, extroverts out there, but sometimes you're not very good at listening. You're not very good at actually pausing and taking a minute to listen to what the other people are saying. Sometimes extroverts are more interested in getting ready to leap in with their next sales pitch. But introverts, really good listeners. And being a good listener means that you're interested in somebody and what they're saying, that you can connect with them, and you can help them and they can help you. So what I would suggest you do is work through some of these tips on the screen now. So always have an intention for why you're going. Okay, think about why you're going to network. Even go with a colleague. Go with somebody you know and someone you trust. They don't have to get involved in the networking, they can just help you. They can be there as a friendly face. But think about why you're going. What's the purpose behind it? You should have a list of the people or the types of businesses and the types of people that you want to get some support from. So as I say, whether that's looking to find someone to help you do your printing, your web design, support you in your product development, to find customers. Think about that and make a list. Introverts, use your superpower, the listening skills, remain interested, remain listening to people. Sometimes it's always good to have some conversation starters ready if you need them. So by all means, make a note of that. Be prepared with that information. Go online. That's often one of the easiest ways to network. Loads and loads of opportunities to network online. And social media is a great place to meet and connect with people. Thinking about that 6 degrees of separation, social media makes it so much easier to connect with people. So think about using that as an easy way in to networking. Choose your events wisely. We don't always have to leap into the suited and booted, hard sell, male dominated networking worlds. There are loads of different events out there for the type of person that you are, for the type of business that you're going into. So think about that. But also think about, on a personal level, the kind of schedule that you have. Schedule your networking events carefully. Think about how and when you're going to go to a networking event. Think about planning it. Think about the days when perhaps you're not so busy, you're not so stressed. Give yourself time, maybe before an event, to sit down and think about what you want to get out of it. Certainly after the event, take time out for yourself. Go and sit down with a coffee, reflect on what you've learned, who you've talked to. And you don't have to be networking all the time. You don't have to turn yourself into this super duper networker. Networking is important, and we do it all the time, and it becomes natural after a while. But if you find yourself saying no to certain things, like going out for lunch and networking over lunch, that's fine. But try and find out if you can have perhaps a one-to-one session with that person. Don't feel pressurized to just go and do everything on the fly. For some of us, especially the more introverted, we need to plan. And sometimes we need to take into account the kind of networking event that we are going to. So if we're milling around in a crowd, if it's a really loud room, that can be quite intimidating. So find the event that is right for you. And extroverts, remember, you need to work on your listening skills. It's the introverts who are really good at that active listening skills. Okay, so next I have some top tips for you. And you will see from the next slide. Here they go. Okay, so I always like to prepare. I'm still not very good at turning up somewhere I don't know, faced with people I don't know, without any preparation. So we need to focus on what the event is. What kind of event is it? Is it a lunch event? Is it a social event? Is it a proper networking event with a guest speaker? Why are we going? What are we hoping to gain from it? Who do we need to talk to? Are we looking for a printer? Are we looking for somebody who can potentially feed us some potential clients? That's important to have a list and to have a think about who we need to meet. Who's going to be there? It's a great idea if we can get a list of attendees beforehand, so you can sit down, you can do some research, you can look into them, look into their businesses and find out if potentially they're going to have those connections with other people that they know that are going to be really beneficial. And maybe reach out in advance. So if you can find a company that you desperately need to get in front of, why not follow them on social media? Why not send off a DM? Why not email them beforehand? You know, that's specifically useful if you're trying to target certain individuals or certain businesses. Think about the agenda. What's the situation going to be like? Are we going to have to eat lunch in front of people? Is it purely coffee? Plan what you're going to wear. You know, we don't always have to be suited and booted. Appearance can be dictated by the kind of event that we're going to. Prepare your pitch. Having a sales pitch, scary term, but we do need that pitch, and that will be talked about a little bit later on. Arrive on time, give yourself plenty of time, arrive early, have a coffee, have a walk around, get yourself familiar with the situation, find out the room, work out the layout, and give yourself that time to remain calm. And the 11th tip, which isn't on there, and I'm sure we will again touch on it later on, but follow up. So after your networking event, again, send somebody a direct message, send somebody an email, because that's the way we build relationships. We just don't have a one-off conversation with people. We have a repartee. We build our relationships over time. So those are some of the top tips that I would suggest that we can all try and work towards.
That was brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Rodri. Some really good ideas and inspirational things for people to do, and also some assistance as well for introverts and extroverts. So thank you very much. We're going to move on now to our next speaker, our guest speaker today from the Enterprise Hub in North Wales. So Shemai, hello. We can also see Sarah in front of us there, so I will move the slide on.
Brilliant. Hopefully you can see me and hear me.
Yes, I can.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rodri. I think I'm going to agree with quite a lot of the things that you've said, to be honest, going forward, so that's good. Yeah, so I'm Sarah. I'm the coordinator for the Enterprise Hub based in Enstaf on Anglesey. The Enterprise Hub is a business startup programme funded through European Regional Development Fund through the Welsh Government. And that's all I'm going to say in terms of introduction at the moment, because I'm going to use myself as a little example of an elevator pitch a bit later on. I was quite excited to be asked to do this, to be honest, because I used to hate networking, and I know how daunting it can be. Because, you know, I am quite a quiet person naturally, and I am one of those introverts that Rodri was talking about, and I hadn't quite realised the importance of networking within business really at that point. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to be able to come on and share with you sort of some of my tips and show you that it isn't that scary or hard once you get used to it. You know, you can get comfortable with it and you will see the value in it really. Some of the things I'm going to say probably with the current situation might not be as relevant because it's more about that face-to-face networking, but I'm sure we're going to get to that point again very soon. So the 5 main topics I'm going to look at is appearance, the first impressions, or what you wear that moment when you first step into the room, greetings, looking at personal space, handshakes and so on, conversation starters, once you approach someone, what do you actually say to start the conversation, your elevator pitch, so that is your sort of how you sell yourself, what exactly is an elevator pitch, and to close, sort of how you leave that conversation once you've started it and how you make a lasting impression on someone. So firstly, we've got what to wear, your appearance. So it might sound a bit superficial, but people might be a bit unfortunate, but they do sort of make assumptions on you when they first see you. So you need to sort of research the vibe of the event. You can look at what kind of events they've done before, look at the venue, look at images. You can even contact the person if you want to and ask what's appropriate to wear. You know, if it is a formal situation, you might want to be fully suited and booted, but if it's more informal, you know, you don't need to be. But I think the most important thing is that it's appropriate to the situation. But again, you know, don't overthink it. The fact that you're comfortable is one of the most important things. I know some people, like some women, love to wear heels because it makes them feel powerful and you just feel the part. If you put me in a pair of heels, I'll probably fall over once I walk into the room. So, you know, it does not make me feel comfortable. It does not make me feel confident. So whatever makes you feel confident. And it's, you know, 2 elements to that, the way you look. It gives an impression to someone, but also something internal. It's about your self-confidence. It's about how you feel. If you feel comfortable and happy, you'll come across better to other people. And as I say, the first impression that you give to people is when you walk into that room. So ideally, I like to get to somewhere early. You know, you don't want to be that person who's running in when everything started. You'll just feel rushed and you won't feel relaxed and you won't feel happy. So I tend to get there maybe 15 minutes early, and it might sound silly, but I will sit in the car, look at myself in the mirror and give myself a little pep talk. It's about flicking that switch in your mind, making you feel right, I'm ready to go now, I'm happy, I'm going to be talking to everyone. You know, it might be harder to say than harder to do than say, but if you don't feel confident, try and fake it a little bit. You know, it gets better, it gets easier, it gets a bit more natural. You know, stand up tall, shoulders back, head up, smile, hands by your side. You know, don't walk in with your hands in your pocket. Smiling is really important. Eye contact is really important as well. You know, if you come in all closed body language, you know, it's going to come over like you're a closed person, like you've got a closed attitude, and you don't want that. You want to be open, smiling, happy, good to go. And when you walk into the room, if you see a chair in the corner, you know, resist going towards it. Do not try to disappear into the corner as much as you would like to do that. You know, stay in a place where people can see you, and stay in a place where you can see the room as well, and choose who you'd like to talk to. A little bugbear as well I've got, leave your phone in your bag. You know, I've seen some people maybe, oh, I'll follow you on LinkedIn now, but I'd much rather if you stay in the conversation with me, you know, don't look at your phone. If you need to, bring a notepad, or you're probably going to get a business card, so you can always write something down on that once the conversation is finished. But it's just good, you're just in the room, you know, you continue to engage with someone that way. So next we have a poll. Second one here. So when you attend a networking event, what do you do first? So if you see it, it's on the poll section. It's on the left for me. I'm not sure where it is for you. We've got some options. Do you go to the toilet? Do you head for the buffet table? Do you take a seat and hope someone talks to you? Head to someone you already recognise, or strike a conversation with someone you don't know straight away? Give you a bit of time to do this. Heading up, we've got 70% voted. It looks like we've got one clear sort of front runner.
okay? I'll just give it another second and then I'll close the poll.
There we go. Interesting. So the top one is head to someone you recognise, and then followed by head to the buffet table. I know the sausage rolls can be tempting. My opinion, I would definitely not go to the toilet first. This is something ideally you need to do, you know, a while before you get there. Saying that though, sometimes it can be a good thing to go to the toilet if you need to sort of recoup, juggle yourself. If you need to just give yourself have a little word with yourself and you know, flick that switch again. But ideally, please don't go to the toilet. I don't see anything wrong with heading to the buffet table first, or actually to an actual table to put all your stuff down. But I would suggest that you don't go back to this table and just sit there and wait for someone to come and talk to you. You need to be a bit more proactive with it a little bit. Again, I don't really see anything wrong with actually talking to someone you know first, someone you recognise, because you know it is about making relationships. So you do need to continue with your previous relationships you made. You still need to keep them going, and it can actually act as a little dry run for someone new, actually. And definitely do aim to talk to someone you don't know. You know, start with small goals, really. If you're really nervous and it's your first networking event, you know, pat yourself on the back if you've only managed to talk to one person. You know, that's one more person than you knew yesterday. So I think, you know, start small and it will get easier and you will become more comfortable with it. So next slide, we're looking at personal space and physical greetings. So I'd say get that first greeting in as soon as you can, really. You know, rip it off like a plaster. Just get it done. You're not going to worry about it after that. Once you've done the first one, the next ones get easier. You know, do not give yourself time, your confidence time to disappear. Don't let doubt sneak in. Again, do not put too much pressure on yourself to be like a social butterfly in your first go. If you only get to one person, that's fine. Maybe give yourself a little goal. Maybe 5 people in your first networking event. You know, but start small and don't put too much pressure on yourself. In terms of sort of a personal space, everyone has this invisible circle around them, which we count as our personal space. This is a space we feel comfortable in. And if people sort of come into that personal space, it starts to get a little bit uncomfortable. There is someone in networking events that I go to, they are in your face quite a bit, and you step back and then they step forward and you end up sort of dancing around the room a little bit. So try not to be that person. Try and keep sort of respectable distance from people. You can judge it as the conversation goes along. If you start to get comfortable with each other, quite friendly, you know, you can maybe edge a bit closer. And if you have someone doing that to you, I think it's fine for you to actually say, I'm not quite comfortable, do you mind stepping back? And they might even be grateful for you for doing that, because they might not even know that they're doing it, really. So definitely be aware of the personal space. In terms of greetings, I think sort of handshakes tend to be the go-to, sort of in a lot of business networking meetings. Personally, I'm not a big fan. I tend to find it a little bit old-fashioned. That's my personal opinion. You know, however, if someone does want to shake my hand, of course I will shake the hand. You know, take your vibe from the event, take your vibe from the other person if you want. Again, some people can be very out there, very touchy-feely. Some people like kisses and hugs. Personally, I'd say keep that to people you know well. You know, you don't want to be kissing someone on a first interaction. And again, you might feel differently, but that is my personal opinion. So the number one question always asked is, how do I actually start a conversation with someone I don't know? When you've actually approached them, what do you actually say? So I like to go with pure and simple, I'm Sarah, what's your name? And I think that's quite an easy good one to go for. I don't know if anyone in the chat wants to give us their go-to conversation starters. If they want to. But we've got some sort of examples here. You can ask, have you been here before? What do you think of this event? Who do you know here? What field are you in? Are they in a sector that's relevant to you? That's a nice XYZ. I don't know, that's a nice dress. That's a nice spectacles, glasses. Where'd you get it from? Tell me about yourself. Have you heard about X, you know, some recent event or something that's happening at the moment. Where are you from? So little nice sort of friendly, soft things that you can start conversations with. It's better to avoid politics, religion, finance, death, age, appearance, illnesses, and offensive jokes. Good tips there. You know, inevitably, they are then going to ask you, what do you do? And this is when you get your elevator pitch ready to go. So what is an elevator pitch? It might be one of those sort of businessy words that maybe people don't actually know what it is. It's actually a 30 to 60 seconds time window that you've got to tell someone who you are and what you do. And the idea is, say, imagine if you were in a lift and you're at the bottom now on ground zero, and you're in a lift with someone else. You press the number level 8 or something, and it's going to take 30 to 60 seconds to get to the top, to level 8. And you need to be able to tell someone what you do and what your offer is in that time before the doors open and they leave. It's essentially your sales pitch that is a concise and compelling introduction about you and your unique offer or value. Your pitch really needs to evoke feeling, and it should be emotive and leave people wanting more. I think Audrey mentioned, you know, it is important. You are there to get sales, you know, you are there to make connections, but you don't want to jump straight in with that. It's really more important to make your connections first, make your relationships. You know, don't jump straight in with your elevator pitch. It just sounds just too salesy, really. You need the pleasantries, you know, the conversation starters from the previous slide. Build a relationship. They will ask you at some point what you do, and that's your cue. You need to show interest in that person as well. You know, it's not just about selling what you have. The most precious commodity people have is their time. You know, they're not going to appreciate you waffling on, and at the end, they're still not sure what you're talking about. You know, personally, me, in loud networking situations, if you go on and on, I am going to lose you. I'm going to be listening to someone else over there. You know, you have to grab someone, you have to be short, punchy, interesting, and you need to grasp that attention within the first 30 seconds, really. And make it quite short, that people will remember it, and they'll be able to jot down a few words on your business card if they need to, just to remember you a bit later. So what exactly does a elevator pitch include? So it includes, who are you, what do you do, what makes you unique, your value proposition, and how can you work together. The last one might be a little bit difficult if you don't know them at that point, but if you are super organised, like what we suggested, you might have a list already of who's there, and you might have sort of worked out how you could work together. You know, it's great to have there something that gains their attention, something that they want to know more, something like maybe if you're selling an app or something, you can go, oh, this app, majority of clients say their sales have increased by 50%. That also triggers their interest, and they'll think, oh, I need 50% more sales. You know, it's just that little thing. So best way to show you an example of this, show you my elevator pitch as the sort of coordinator of the enterprise hub. So I'd say something like, my name is Sarah Loyce. I am the coordinator for the enterprise hub MSPAC. The hub provides entrepreneurs across Gwynedd, Anglesey, Conwy and Denbighshire with the knowledge, guidance, inspiration and space to transform their ideas into a successful business. We offer things like co-working office space, a community of like-minded individuals to share ideas and offer encouragement, business advice, educational, social events, and a newly released community business starter program. A recent member said that joining the hub was the best decision she could have made, because she really now has a community that she can turn to anytime for advice. And the best bit is all at no cost if you're a hub member for at least 6 months. So hopefully it's quite short, quite sort of attention grabbing, and people can pick what they want from that. And it gives them an opportunity as well to continue and ask more questions. You know, they might ask, oh, what kind of workshops do you do? Where is your location in Conwy? Where is your location in Anglesey? You know, they can, if they're interested, they will ask more questions a bit later on. And that's how the conversation develops. So at some point, the conversation might dry up. You know, or maybe you just don't find that person is the right connection for you at the moment. But how do you move on in a nice manner? I think sentences work well. Seems like it's been good to meet you. I better pop around and meet a few more people before the end of the evening. You know, that's just very, very nice way of doing it. Always ask and take a business card. Even if you don't think they're the connection for you at the moment, they might be in future, or they might know someone else that might be good for you in future. Always have your business cards with you as well, I'd say, just in case. Make sure it represents you and what you do and offer in a simple way. Most obvious thing, have your contact details on there. Believe me, I've seen some that have 0 contact details on there. I'm not going to be spending my time searching for you on Google. You have to make it easy for people to get in touch with you. Always good to have a little blank space on there so people can write them some notes. You have to consider the paper that it's on at that point as well, because sometimes it's quite hard to write on them. Someone puts it in their pocket or smudged by the time they get it back out again. You've got some sort of snazzy ones down the bottom, like the one that folds out into a chair. I think if you can do something a bit snazzy, well, why not? But you have to make sure that it is relevant to what you do. Don't be snazzy just for the sake of it, really. Because obviously if you do furniture making, well, that's quite a good, interesting thing to do. But, you know, don't go overboard either. I don't know, if you offer bouncy castle hire, don't make the card a bouncy castle shape and it doesn't fit in someone's wallet or in their purse. You know, it's going to go straight in the bin, really. Same with, I was talking to someone who was an engineer and he was going to do laser engraved aluminium business cards. You know, that's going to cost quite a lot. You know, and the reality is, if they're not interested, they might pop it in the bin afterwards. People who are interested, they might even take your details off the card, put it on their spreadsheet on their computer, or they have a little black book of contacts, and then it goes in the bin. And you know, if you spend a couple of pence on one, then that's not a big deal. But if you end up spending a couple of pounds on it, well, that is quite expensive in the long run. So just have that in your head. So I'll finish with one other little tip that I like. Once you've been to a few networking events, you know, your confidence will grow, but there will be other newbies there. You know, help them out. You've been in their situation. Go chat to them, introduce them to other people. And even with sort of seasoned pros at networking, they, you know, be a connector. Opportunities will often follow. If you can connect them to other people, you know, they will remember that you pointed them towards that person, and you know, they'll do the same in return for you when the time arises. So yeah, always good to be a connector, and opportunities will follow. So that's me, and we've got Eleanor coming up after me, so I'll hand over to Eleanor.
Good afternoon. So yes, I'm Eleanor Leishman, and I'm part of the engagement team here at Aquaritag, and I've been networking for about 10 years now. So I'm going to impart a bit of my knowledge, a little bit of what I've learned over the years. So the first thing I'm going to speak about is social capital. That's on the first slide. So as we know, it's not what you know, it's who you know that counts. And when you're networking, yes, ultimately you want to win business. That's the end goal, but you also want to create a powerful collection of people who can speak up for you, share information with you, refer you to other people. And when you attend networking events, when you socialize, you swap business cards, then yes, this is networking technically, but it doesn't necessarily build your social capital unless you're doing it with intent, which I think is something that Rodri alluded to earlier. You really need to cut through the clutter and create mutually beneficial relationships. Now, there's 3 stages to this in order to build your social capital. First of all, you really need to identify the right people. So you need to identify people with power, with influence, people who are going to help you to reach your goals, and eventually be willing to advocate for you and refer you. The next step then, step 2, is to build and nurture relationships of trust. Dale Carnegie, who wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People, has got a good quote. He says, you can make more friends in 2 months by being interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people to be interested in you. It's so true. If you don't genuinely care, if you're not genuinely interested in the other person, they know. Particularly successful business people, they tend to be quite clever. So, you know, you really have to build genuine, authentic relationships, ask questions, and to throw back to something Rodri said about introverts being good networkers, really try and embrace your inner extrovert, introverts even. Step 3 then, possibly the hardest bit for some people, is to leverage the relationships that you've built. So you've got these fantastic relationships. make sure that you utilize them. So ask for assistance from the network when you need it. Ask for referrals, advice. But also remember, you can be a resource yourself, be willing to help others. So back to being strategic and back to networking with intention. What does this actually look like? Well, for example, if you're at a networking event, or even prior to being at a networking event, find out if you can get the guest list beforehand, do your research, find out who you want to speak to. You can then contact the organizer, see if you can be sat next to them if it's a dinner or a breakfast event. Think about what you can speak to them about, and also plan what do you actually want to get out of the event, and also from a relationship with that individual. And remember, all of this isn't creepy. It may sound creepy. It is strategic networking, and if you're time poor, it's 100% necessary. A few kind of important things I'd have said also while you're trying to build your social capital, especially if you're new to networking. One thing you definitely don't want to do is to walk into a room and start hard selling, especially if the people that you're talking to don't actually have a need or an interest in your product or service. You're basically wasting your time and ruining your chances of building a useful relationship with someone. So for example, I've attended networking events where I've had, for example, a printing company, someone from a printing company who has been talking to me about the amazing print that they produce and how fantastic value for money it is. And I'm sure it is, but the problem is I don't hold the marketing budget, and I probably never will. So they're really wasting their time selling to me. What they should be doing is trying to build a relationship with me so that I will then introduce them potentially to our marketing manager. So that's one thing to remember. It's not about selling, it's about building relationships. And also, it goes without saying, when you're at networking events, make sure you behave yourself. And so I know that quite a few of you said that you're not particularly confident networking. So the obvious thing to do if an evening event would be to have a drink. And probably one drink is okay, but don't have 10, don't get drunk. Generally behave yourself, think about your reputation. Equally, it's really important to embrace diversity. So in order to get ahead, you will need to build relationships with people who are different to you, not just people that you like. It's not just about making friends. And then in terms of the follow-ups as well, this is really important. So when you're really building relationships and nurturing relationships, it's obviously important once you've met someone to follow up and keep that relationship going. And you can do this by email after the event, if it's an event. Connect with them on LinkedIn, start following them on Twitter, whatever it takes. I personally draw the line at becoming friends with someone on Facebook after meeting them once at a networking event, but it's entirely up to you, whatever you think is going to work best. So also networking online, lots of positives to this. Great if you're time poor or have family responsibilities, as you don't have to leave the house. It's also great for keeping in touch in a relaxed way after meeting in person. And there are a few negatives though. It's quite difficult to cut through the noise. So you do need to stand out on social media if you're going to network. One thing, if you're new to using social media for business purposes, remember that it really is quality over quantity in terms of your followers. So don't aspire to have 20,000 followers on Twitter if they're not going to be useful for your business. If you've got 200 people who are genuine advocates and supporters of what you do, that is way more valuable. Choose your platforms wisely. So I would probably only stick to 2. I think that's the general rule of thumb. Stick to 2 platforms and focus on them. Don't spread yourself too thinly. Find out what your target market are using. And then get on there. So for example, if it's a business to business product that you're selling, get on LinkedIn. If you're targeting Generation Z, so teenagers and people in their early 20s, you might want to choose TikTok. Or if it's a visual product or service, you might want to look at Instagram or Pinterest. Have a plan, goes without saying. Have a good understanding of what you want to achieve before you start, and know your audience. So define beforehand who you're targeting, and then use the opportunity to find out more about their needs, their desires, their behaviors, their habits, and then obviously communicate with them in an appropriate way. You also want to build your personal brand. Now, we actually have a webinar covering personal branding on the 8th of July, so please watch that. But what I'd also add at this stage is make sure that you know what your area of expertise is and don't be afraid to shout about it. So if you're a beautician, feel free to get on there on social media and tell everyone about everything that you know and these amazing new products and what you can do for them. And this is how you build credibility in your space. There's two ways to really communicate on social media. One of them is sharing helpful content. So make sure you're relevant and useful. Don't just sell. It's not just a selling opportunity. It's about educating and helping, and that's how people are going to remember you favorably. Also, post content that allows people to engage with you easily. So ask questions, maybe even ask for advice. And also, I would always try and keep things the simpler the better, because it's a crowded space. People are scrolling quickly. Don't try and get too clever with your posts. Do something eye-catching. As well as just posting though, as I said, don't just tweet, don't just post, also engage in conversations online. So get involved in other people's conversations, comment on other people's posts, really have a conversation with people and engage rather than just sell and put yourself out there. Yeah, be consistent, that goes without saying, and that's something we'll cover in the branding workshop. Make sure your brand personality shines through consistently on every platform. And then get yourself out there, and also get out of your comfort zone. Lots of people aren't that comfortable on social media, but if you start small, build a following of genuine supporters, engage, post relevant content, slowly but surely your presence will grow and you'll reap the rewards of it. So next we've got top 10 tips, just to recap on everything. So please feel free to take a photo of this if you want. What I would probably add to this as well is that in my experience, it's really important to be memorable, and that's memorable for the right reasons, obviously. So this, you know, you want to stand out. I found, you know, especially back when I was younger and I used to do a lot of networking, there was everyone sort of it was hard to remember everyone basically. So I would say always be memorable, and there's a number of ways that you can do this on the next slide. Just make sure you're authentic, make sure you're real, make sure you do the follow-ups as well. That's a good way to stay in people's minds. And then also another thing that I'd probably say is, yes, you want to be intentional about your networking, you want to be strategic, but don't be afraid to make friends. It's hard when you're launching your own business. So, you know, feel free to use your networking opportunities for personal reasons as well. You know, if there's a manager of a restaurant that you run into at a networking event and he can make sure that you get a table in the best restaurant in the city, then, you know, obviously feel free to utilize those opportunities. But it's just, as long as your overall intent behind networking is to be strategic and meet with the right people who are going to help you get ahead, then that's when you'll really see the value in networking.
Hi, Rodri here. I think those are some really awesome tips. It always amazes me, there's buffets at networking events. The number of times I've been stood at the buffet, just about to bite into a donut, I'm halfway through something really messy, and there's the person that I need to speak to right in front of me. So I think we mentioned earlier avoiding the buffet, but certainly when you're trying to meet somebody, perhaps hand over business cards, having a face full of food isn't the best look.
I would have to agree with that, actually, Rodri. I try and avoid eating at networking events.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. So if we move on to the panel question and answer session, so I just want to say thank you to Ellie, Rodri and Sarah Loyce for your really interesting top tips, and things that we need to think about when we're going to networking events. I think some of the things that have come forward are the importance of developing those relationships, and that people buy or people engage with people that they like, or that they've got something in common with, and the fact that building those relationships is really key. It was interesting as well, something you said, Ellie, about quantity over quality in terms of your followers online, because it is actually possible to buy followers. So sometimes when you see that people have got sort of 20,000 followers, or 50,000 followers, and you think, oh, how am I going to compete with them? A lot of them don't actually exist, believe it or not. You can actually buy followers. And then also the fact that you need to have a business card that represents you. It's really interesting. Once I was given this business card by this very extrovert, energetic, charismatic lady, and she gave me this business card, and it was she wanted to make it environmentally friendly, so it was sort of it was an eco business card, but it was plain and boring, and it did nothing to represent her. So you need to make sure that you stand out in some way, and I think the branding workshop next week will be really useful for that. But we've got some questions coming in, so feel free to send in additional questions. But one of the first questions we've got, if I give this one to Sarah Loyce, where's the best place to find out about networking events in your opinion?
I think it's good. You can get quite a few from actually things like Eventbrite, because they're often quite listed on things like that. You can actually search through Eventbrite depending on your location and what you're after. Obviously social media is good as well. I'll get yourself on newsletters for different places as well. Like, I don't know, I'm on the Chamber of Commerce newsletters. They're really good, and you get them in your inbox every month. So there's quite a lot of options where you can get things from.
Ellie or Rodri, if you get anything?
Hi, yeah, Rodri. What I would say is think about who you need to get in touch with. So think about the people that you want to speak to. Think about perhaps the customers that you're trying to reach, the communities that you're trying to work with, and think slightly outside of the box. So perhaps it's not to go to the networking events that everyone else is going to. Put yourself in the position of, say, your potential customers. Where are they going to be? What kind of events are they attending? And hunt them down online and try a slightly different route.
That's brilliant. Thank you for that, Rodri. A different way of looking at it. So we've got another question here from Emma in terms of what is a networking diagram? So who would like to answer that one?
Well, I can tackle that if no one else wants to say anything. I think all it's kind of referring to is what I touched on before with 6 degrees of separation, and that's a kind of study that shows we are 6 links away from anyone else in the world, and it's a really powerful tool. And what you can start to do is draw them out with a network is show the people that you know, the people that you've met, start to draw in some physical links about who they know. And you can start to have this diagram that shows how you are connected to all sorts of different people. And it can kind of tell you where you need to be going next, who you need to be talking to, and how we're going to fill in some of the missing links in that network. And again, it's about just thinking about what you need as a new business. Who do you need to be talking to, and how can you make those links? So having it visibly in front of you, having something written down showing, well, I know these people, and these people will know somebody else who will possibly know somebody else, so I can get in touch with. I think having that written down in a diagram can help some people.
Thank you very much for that. I find it really useful as well to put into my networking diagram. I need to speak to this person for marketing, or I need to sort of keep an eye on these people because they're competitors. It sounds awful, but there's actually people out there who do social media and LinkedIn, and they actually stalk their competitors. So I know somebody that's the first thing she does every morning for an hour is she sees who her competitors have linked with on LinkedIn, and then she links in with them as well, so she can see sort of the conversations they're having and who they're contacting. So, you know, keeping an eye on competitors, having, you know, your networking plan for your marketing, having your networking plan for who you're going to sell your product or service to. So putting all those elements together and sort of having it visually, or, you know, on a spreadsheet in terms of who you need to contact for what, and then the people that they know that, and then as Roger said, that 6 degrees of separation grows then. So just time for another 2 questions, and then just a couple of things to wrap up. So we've got a question: how do we think that COVID-19 will impact the traditional business club events? Do you think there is a place for them going forward? Ellie, what do you think to that?
Well, I think the world isn't going to be exactly the same. Obviously, we know we're all talking about the new normal. I think in terms of face-to-face networking events, it's maybe going to be a while before they materialise again. It's possibly not seen as a necessity. And I know that there has been a lot of online networking events that actually worked quite well. So yes, there's going to be changes, but I think that there's nothing beats meeting someone face to face. It's the best way to build a team, it's the best way to build relationships, and they're definitely not going anywhere. What I am wondering is whether or not we're still going to be shaking hands with people and kissing people when we meet them. That might change, certainly in the near future, but who knows? It's going to be interesting to see what happens, actually.
So quite a lot of events have actually gone online. So I attended the Warrior Women event online last week. You know, and that used to be a face-to-face event, but they've gone online. The Aquaritag's Women's Spire Awards that were relaunched this week. You know, we've taken that from a physical event to an online event, which is actually going to be broadcast live through Facebook, isn't it? Through the ITV hub. So, you know, there's different approaches, and I think that that's one of the things that COVID-19 has brought about is new ways of working, new innovations and new approaches for things. And you know, that's one important thing with whatever your business idea is, you know, to make it bulletproof and to think of ways that you will still be able to network, brand, promote your product in uncertain times going forward. So I would just like to say a massive thank you to our panel today. Thank you, Ellie, Rodri and Sarah Lois, for your valuable contributions today. I'm sure everybody has learned a considerable amount from the session today. So just a couple more things, if you just bear with me one moment. I'm clicking off the questions panel. So just a little quote here. It's not what you know, but what you learn, nor how you know, but how you use it, nor who you know, but who knows you. So it sort of is the importance of networking, you know, making sure that your name is out there. Because you might have a brilliant product or service, but if nobody knows about you, then it's not going to sell. So make sure you network. So just a quick reminder to log in to the Simply Do's Ideas platform, www.sdi.click/Make.It.Happen. And it's a way of putting together your ideas into a format that you'll be able to see a plan all in one place in front of you. So you just click on new idea, register, and then you can get started. So that is Simply Do, who is supporting this NatWest project, the female founders. So just to let you know about the next 2 workshops. The next 2 workshops, we've got one on the 8th of July, which is being run by Big Ideas Wales on branding, which is all to do with telling and selling your story. So talking about you, it's about making that personal connection with people so that they want to buy or sell, buy from you, or become associated with your business. And then we've got another session on the 22nd of July, which is all about business basics, the necessities you need to know. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending the session today. If you've got any further questions or queries, then we will be sending out some information to you all. And thank you very much for attending, and thank you to our panel today as well.